Welcome to Rumbo Minero. Welcome, Cesar.
How's it going,
How
Jorge?
are you? My name is Jorge Leon. With Cesar Campos, we will develop this program. We have a topic. It seems repetitive, but we invite Anthony Laub, founding partner of Laub Quijandría, to discuss Petroperú and the presidential campaign. What are the candidates proposing regarding the Petroperú issue? It seems like little or nothing. We will consult with an expert on that matter, Cesar.
Indeed, also concerning the mining field, naturally, because we are concluding February, and we still lack, at a minimum, concrete indicators, apart from a few candidates addressing the mining industry subject. We will therefore speak with Jorge Soto Yen, who presides over the Mining Engineering chapter of the Departmental Council of Lima, of the College of Engineers of Peru.
That's right. And we should also mention that Rumbo Minero will be present at PDAC in Canada, as always, at the most important events. Now we are going to, before moving to the interviews, and now a report that has been prepared by our dedicated team over at Rumbo Minero. Please proceed.
Petroperú returns to the center of the economic debate ahead of the 2026 elections. As we remember, the outgoing interim government, which was headed by José Geri, approved the emergency decree 01-02025, which authorizes the reorganization of the company under the leadership of Proinversión. The objective of this measure is to stabilize its finances and reverse the accumulated losses over the last years. However, the recent shifts in both the institutional area and the political landscape raise questions about whether this process will continue during this crucial time to determine the direction of the state company. The main question remains whether the restructuring will progress before the government transition or if it will fall to the subsequent administration. In the meantime, candidates are already outlining various proposals for Petroperú's future, some focusing more politically and others aiming to transform it into an efficient, productive, and sustainable enterprise.
Thank you very much for the report to the Rumbo Minero team. We are now here in our studios together with Anthony Laub, the founding partner of Laub and Quijandría, as you know.
Appreciate the invite. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Within the scope of the urgent decree that permits the restructuring of Petroperú, already a heavily discussed topic and opening the possibility of incorporating private investment in strategic assets, even during the segmentation of units involving the Talara refinery, the government aims to secure the company's financial sustainability against the accumulated losses and the pressure from creditors. Do you believe that the restructuring of assets and the potential involvement of private entities will ensure the long-term survival of Petroperú, or do you foresee a danger of breaking up the enterprise without resolving underlying governance issues? We have seen many forms, many recipes in recent years. You have been here before at Rumbo Minero, and we continue with the recipes. Do you think this recipe could work?
Unsure of the recipe. Need more information. We need a plan. If I want to go from here to Tumbes, I have several routes to get from here to Tumbes. I have the option to travel by plane, bus, or boat to get to my destination. Whatever it takes, what we have to be clear about is the objective. If the objective is Tumbes, we go to Tumbes. I don't care how you want to go while you reach your goal. That is, there will be better routes. But what we haven't had with Petroperú is a direction. Petroperú was simply, let's spend, let's spend, let's spend, let's spend. It costs more. It doesn't matter. The state is there to cover it for us. Hey, we did badly. It doesn't matter. There it is. The state is prepared to provide us with bonuses as incentives. Achieving a perfect state of affairs can be facilitated by issuing bonds, although I'm uncertain whether my explanation is clear. If you don't have a direction, if you don't have a goal, how do you get that? What I hope from this whole process so that Proinversión can tell us perfectly, we are going to Tumbes by boat because it is the best route we have today, because if we go by road, we don't have the trucks and we go by plane. If he doesn't give us the money, fine, we'll go by boat. Let's examine what tasks we have ahead of us. We must bring in the appropriate pilot, secure the correct vessel, and then commence the voyage in order.
Excuse me, Anthony, but this hasn't started badly with Petroperú's cancellation a few days ago of the process. Of hiring, that is, it calls for an international competition, and two of them do not want to participate.
Has something started badly from your point of view?
Petroperú is in trouble. All of Petroperú is bad. So the question is, if everything is rotten, if everything is broken, where to start? I believe we must be clear by stating and acknowledging that an entity such as Petroperú is anything but a genuine company. It serves as the central hub for a select few, while also doubling as the daily grind for several thousand employees in Peru, each enjoying exclusive benefits and privileges not found elsewhere. It is a center where indeed the things increase magically in price. Nobody frets about it, and the list goes on continuing further and further. What it has done, due to this cancellation of the procedure for the compliance officer, in reality, during his transformation process, truthfully, stemming from the issuance of the emergency decree, it is a direct consequence. Because this was an obligation that Petroperú had from the year 2024. 24 passed, 25 passed, and they couldn't convert it, they couldn't execute it. Again, they don't have a direction, they don't have a goal. By the way, that's what I understand. Because they simply haven't wanted to look for a compliance officer or a transformation officer, because obviously that compliance officer, that transformation officer was going to say, hey, what have you done here? So the executives themselves of Petroperú, they are the ones responsible for obstructing the recruitment process. So today, if you have already commissioned someone like Proinversión, tell me what the route is, tell me what the scenario is, tell me what the path is, the diagnosis, and what it suggests to us for curing this illness. This whole process was collapsing on itself. It made no sense at all, since it might disrupt Proinversión's intended actions. Sooner or later, you can't have two heads. One head was there, while this investment represents another opportunity. Driving the same car, just one wheel. We already chose that it be pro-inversión. Well, the government already chose that it be pro-investment. Let's go with that and demand results from pro-inversión. Why? Because when we gave Petroperú the opportunity, Petroperú didn't know how or didn't want to do absolutely anything. That's the reality.
If the decision were up to you, what would your plan be?
I would close it. I would close it. Petroperú is truly a bottomless barrel of waste. It costs us over 27 billion
They sell
souls.
the assets and...
Depends on friends, depends on everything. The political handover is petty cash for all governments. And look, it is not just the slush fund of this government, nor the previous one. Toledo's petty cash is being held in reserve.
What? What contradictory things, huh? I understand well about closing it, because it's a bottomless barrel. That in a country that it's a sin in such a poor or weak country.
Let's put it, as someone suggested, as Milei did. Let's distribute them to the workers and monitor the duration it lasts to determine its longevity.
Long? The core issue still stands. In what manner precisely does the company... And what exactly are the points against this? I know we have to close down because there's too much that has to be given, the bailouts and all that already. What would the drawbacks be? Because there's a lot of talk and a bit of demagoguery about that, it would affect Peru's image abroad. All that we have heard and experienced in our lives.
Why? Why affect us? Peru mine closed. What happened? The increase in our mineral production was substantial. We decided to shut down ENS. Do you recall NC Milk? What's the story there? No, milk seems to be ubiquitous now. We sold off the Peruvian telephone company. Has anything occurred? Currently, we have 3 or perhaps 4 operators functioning exceptionally well, in stark contrast to the former state of Telefónica.
We dedicate ourselves to, what's it called? We need 240,000 barrels daily, right? And we have 40,000 with, never mind.
We need 275,000.
Therefore, we would make the purchase.
And what's the problem?
Because the majority, we already buy now.
But as of today, we are already importing approximately 80% of everything that we consume.
240,000, 40,000, right?
If our objective is to achieve a positive hydrocarbon balance, then we must invest to encourage private entities and private companies to come in and explore for and extract petroleum. People forget that the largest block we have is Block 192. It is Block 192. They gave it to Petroperú by decree. That block produces 1 barrel, 0. And lot 64, oh. And when Petroperú temporarily held those northwestern lots, whether production went up or production went down, it definitely declined. What are we on about? I mean, if we want to produce more oil. First and foremost, we should simplify the process, akin to streamlining operations in the mining industry. The complexity created by the Reds, or rather, the left wing, must be addressed transparently. They have made the process of obtaining permits for mining, for oil, for gas, for electricity so complex that what they are doing is indirectly to renationalize these sectors by means of the legislative and bureaucratic maze we currently possess.
And there the advice comes in.
And speaking of leftists, speaking of Reds and those responsible and populists from everywhere, oh, because it's not just that, not only from the left, but also from the right. No,
the pseudo-right,
a strategic
too.
company. And I don't want to get into the social problem because the 11 unions will grab me by the neck. And being realistic, because with the question Jorge asked you, it is your point of view that it should be liquidated.
But on the electoral stage, it's not on anyone's lips. Not any of the candidates, not even the most sensible ones. It's not their concern. Perhaps Roberto Chiabra has approached a bit to say, well, 49% private, 51%, that it should be maintained as a state entity. What exactly must the candidates assume or assimilate in any case? Because out of these 36 individuals, Anthony is going to emerge as the next president of the Republic.
They don't want to privatize it, so grant it then.
Yes, concession.
Let a third party come in, someone who knows the oil business, someone who knows finance, someone who knows economics, someone who knows business, and tell him, sir, you are granting the concession to the company. And once you put it in the black, and once everything is organized, and once the debts have been covered, and the poorly made investment has been replaced, etc., I'll sell it then. Highlight the first word in blue. And you charge a fee for making it blue and a fee so the payment for the service will definitely be sourced from Petroperú's operations, which you handle proficiently. It is not the government that will provide you with a salary. A person will arrive and suggest, let's make some adjustments in these areas. First, we should remove at least half of the unproductive individuals, perhaps even more. No, I would suggest voting for change.
But they say it's not much, right? I mean, it's not a lot. I mean, it's 5% of the company's movement, right? The part... Work.
How do companies move? Companies move because you have the right people. Businesses relocate when they have a competent general manager, a skilled technical manager, and a knowledgeable finance manager. These professionals guide the company in making informed decisions, ensuring success in their respective areas of expertise. Since you have a legal manager capable of defending the company and a talented board of directors. And underneath, because you have operators, professionals and technicians who know how to do what they have to do. Therefore, it is not that the workload is of little relevance. The workload is absolutely crucial and very important. If you possess personnel who are fully qualified, properly trained, and highly motivated, collaborative efforts between companies will be effective. They function as a team. How is it possible for an oil corporation to experience a financial loss?
Correct. Okay. Anthony Laub, founding partner of Laub Quijandría. Thank you for consistently enrolling in the mining course.
Pleasure.
Let's go now to Expomina, the fair. Our fair is coming in September. More than 1,250 stands. One of the largest fairs in America. If you are currently a supplier or wish to become one, please visit expominaperu.com right away to secure your exhibition stand. We currently have almost 90% sold. Don't be left out. We will go to a commercial break and return. Good. We now move to our America mining block with José Gonzáles. Over to you, José.
Pleased to be on the show as always. Hard raw materials, meaning metals and minerals derived from petroleum, have maintained their prices over the first 2 months of the month based on geopolitical variables. The risk implied by global dynamics for these commodities, factors of supply and demand, and the decisions made by the Trump administration in the United States. Gold has stayed firm above $1,580 an ounce, extending the profits gained from prior sessions and rounds, approaching a peak not seen in the last 4 weeks. As long as markets continue to evaluate geopolitical tensions and the implications of United States trade policies, developments will be closely monitored. The United States has kept piling up military forces in the Middle East because of the escalating tensions with Iran and the outcomes stemming from those very agreements reached in Geneva. As Washington has continued to increase its pressure on the country, Islamic, in accordance with the agreements reached, concerning nuclear energy and the subsequent exports of oil and weapons. The pressure also continues to exist as a result of the Supreme Court's rulings on the tariff rates established by the Trump administration and its commitment to maintaining them. Proceed with those tariffs, despite the judicial decision, by turning to other tariff mechanisms. On the other hand, the likelihood of the Federal Reserve lowering interest rates by September is not being considered, which will continue to impact prices moving forward. Silver has stayed above $19 per ounce, maintaining its highest levels this month, thus mimicking the movements linked to gold in terms of geopolitical uncertainties and the continuous quest for a secure investment in valuable metals such as precious and semi-precious ones, gold and silver case. The metal has also been supported by a dollar that continues its trend of weakness, strengthening the quotation of commodities, materials. The futures for copper have advanced to only $5.95, gradually reclaiming the quotes that had surpassed $6 per ounce, gaining ground slowly, to the extent that transactions resumed in Chinese markets following the long break for the Lunar New Year celebrations. Increased optimism is fueled by the possibility of reduced tariffs, particularly concerning China's trade situation. As a result of the rulings made by the Supreme Court of the United States, they would diminish in the specific instance of China, where they had previously been set at certain levels of $45, 45% of it. From China to the US, US to China, and 35% from China to the US. Tariffs on the North American side could not exceed 15% for 150 days. Following that, congressional endorsement is essential in order for the tariffs to continue being enforced. Furthermore, it is anticipated that China will encounter comparatively lower average duties imposed upon its exports that possess high content levels. Concerning metals, and also the dynamics of the Chinese market itself and its future growth dynamics moving ahead. In terms of Brent, it has held steady above the price of $70 per barrel. Due to tensions between Iran and the United States that could be affected if the conflict increases, since Iran produces 3 million barrels daily that are purchased by China at 98%, and if such production were affected, Iran would have to go out and buy. I would need to search for that specific petroleum production within the international markets, thereby putting pressure on the current quotations. On the contrary, estimates for quotations should remain elevated as the United States seeks to enhance levels in lookout for better performances, in order to recover the strategic reserve that we had expended in prior years.
Very interesting topics. Many thanks to José Gonzáles from Wall Street, New York. For Rumbo Minero, international editor of the Rumbo Minero magazine. You can download this magazine for free by going to www.rumbominero.com, and every 45 days you will have access to it. All this great information about the mining sector, global and Peruvian, of course. We will go to a commercial break and return. All right. We are now situated here in our studios with Jorge Soto Yen. He currently serves as the president of the chapter of the School of Mining Engineering of the Departmental Council of Lima of the College of Engineers of Peru. Welcome.
Hello, how are you doing? A big thank you to Rumbo Minero for extending this invitation.
Tell us a little bit. The mining sector continues to be, as we already know, the main driver. But now, getting into the topic of the candidate, the electoral campaign, right? What should the candidates be like to articulate clear policies to strengthen the role of mining in the national economic development without neglecting, for instance, environmental or social aspects, you see, which are frequently the source of our issues?
Well, we must consider that the candidates probably will not have much knowledge about mining. The crucial thing is that their guidelines and their policies for the person who should be at the ministry overseeing energy and mining operations, they should be upright professional individuals who are knowledgeable about the sector. That is the fundamental point. And in this context, while we have them right in the middle of the campaign, we haven't heard much about mining, unfortunately. And at the very least, I believe they should have two significant areas of focus. One of these is what will be the different mechanisms and the key guidelines that will determine the outcome. If the mining projects in the pipeline, they should decide whether or not to follow the link to continue in that growth and in the required authorizations that are necessary. And the second crucial point that every single participant involved in this campaign ought to seriously consider is precisely what they will do, what they will decide, or what will be specific topics regarding illegal mining and informal mining, because we have to separate them clearly. Therefore, moving forward, the entire mining industry's focus, in my opinion, is on reform. If the decision will be made, because it will be difficult under this government, concerning the MAPE law, whether this incoming new government will make the decision to approve that necessary law to avoid continuing with a reinforcement every year. That is the principle. And from the perspective of the illegal aspect, we ought to be absolutely resolute in every matter, meaning we should not permit, if we don't stop illegal mining now, we risk facing it again in the future. There is talk about the need to establish new entities or ministries specifically focused on addressing issues related to the informal sector. At any given time, they will soon request the establishment of a ministry or organization focused on engaging in illegal activities. And that would not be prudent right now when we have something important for the country.
And Jorge, despite that outlook and all the instability or insecurity that an electoral period always creates, the projection of Minen, approximately 7 billion is the population for this year. Dollars in mining investments, which is intended not only for industry development, but also for investments in exploration, which is already taking on a dynamic that is still small, but that will certainly be significant. What steps do you believe should be taken? Regulatory measures or changes within the state's perspective to promote should occur in the mining sector after the new government takes office?
Yes, I believe that first, 2025 was quite satisfactory. We know there are over $5.3 billion. 60% is allocated to infrastructure, development, and a significant percentage to exploration within mining operations. It is understood that for this 2026, the programming maintained for the following years was $6.5 to $7 billion. That will be quite positive. What steps should we take to make this possible? Because otherwise, if we fail to implement practical measures or decisions, it won't work. Look, we currently have in Michiquillay one of the projects that could be a flagship for the year 2030 onwards. And so, the entities that will be managed, the next administration must have a clear focus on one key issue. I believe we must follow a positive trend. Yesterday, the Critical Minerals Agreement was signed in the United States. The signing of the Critical Minerals Agreement in the United States is expected to happen soon, if I'm not mistaken. We should consider how this will affect things. We will require increased investments in the upcoming years, but what are our true necessities? Greater predictability in mining projects, but above all in the environmental authorizations and permits. A practical technical plan exists at the Ministry of Energy and Mines, but something won't work between now and 2030. Let's remember that the staff working there are approaching 65 to 70 years old. We will not have enough evaluators. Therefore, one of the key points is determining the mechanisms and the qualified personnel we must have. Assessments for upcoming projects within the Energy Ministry are carried out by the Ministry of Energy and Mines, which is a crucial aspect. Additionally, it is imperative. The infrastructure. I continuously point out that up to this date, not a single one of the respective authorities explored the impacts of infrastructure advancements in detail. The Energy and Mines Ministry is in need of updated infrastructure and may not even acquire it in the near future. The systems topics or the best environments to be able to develop with the new software or everything related to the technology side, and they won't be able to advance with the mining projects. We will stay at that point. I consider those two primary ones crucial, with the additional condition that a third one must also be present. A fast ultimatum, 17 characters, of saying projects require a dedicated fast lane to ensure genuine progress. The prices of metal are increasing and are expected to stay elevated. Incorporating fast-track projects with a focus on environmental and social aspects is crucial for the country's development, especially with its strong legal stability in place. And it's important to have a stable tax system. We all want to help maintain it.
A very big thank you goes out to Jorge Soto Yen, who is the president of the Mining Engineering Chapter for the Departmental Council of Lima, part of the College of Engineers of Peru. Thank you very much, Jorge.
Thank you very much to you, Rumbo Minero and Jorge Benavides. Very kind.
All right, let's move now to Iván Arenas' segment, Mining and Society. Please go ahead.
Donald Trump has loosened the regulations for carrying out underwater mining. That is information it is essential for us to carefully examine and closely observe. There are two large mining basins believed to be used for subsea mining operations. Those basins, a basin stretching from Hawaii to the Pacific coast of Mexico, and another basin lies between Chile and Peru, the Pacific Basin. These are two basins with possibilities to execute projects, especially copper projects. It is estimated that around between the Peru Basin and the Chile Basin, there would be about 10 Las Bambas projects. That is interesting. So there are possibilities for copper in the Pacific and South Pacific between Chile and Peru. And that is also a tricky subject, a subject that we have to approach it with great detail, with great finesse, with great tact. Since we need to form diplomatic ties over there, iterated the process of establishing relations. However, a unified approach is necessary to maximize the potential opportunities available and the copper exploitation deposits and reserves that we currently possess. Although at this precise moment there are agreements in the countries between Chile and Peru internationally that this kind of thing has not yet been carried out, well, projects. But in the future, it is estimated that given the high demand for copper, in the future, it is estimated that probably we will undertake copper mining operations. We must reach an agreement there. There are very few studies and very few analyses available. Curiously, those few studies that exist come from Peru's naval and military institutions. Both play a crucial role, and within Chile. Once again, it serves as a vital strategic area where we possess more than just copper. Not just between Peru and Chile, but we also possess copper in the bottom of the sea. That is important. In the coming years, probably, given the demand, given the industry, given artificial intelligence, we will end up reviewing the possibility of doing underwater mining and mining operations between Chile and Peru. Please be mindful of that disagreement we experienced over there. And, it's settled. We need to adhere to international standards in our work, talking about these subjects in the coming weeks. Thank you very much.
Well, reaching the end of the program, what Laub says is interesting. I think there is a lot of ground to cover regarding Petroperú. I truly hope that the candidates are able to advance this topic and present genuinely interesting proposals.
And also pay attention to what Jorge Soto Yen said, that the candidates, please, we are finishing February and entering the final part of the campaign, should be clearer on the mining issue.
That's right. Many thanks to Cesar Campos. My name is Jorge Leon. And don't forget, every Saturday at 8:25 on Willax. Thank you.